You can go ahead.
Welcome to the 611th meeting of our Speechweavers Toastmasters Club. My dazzling guest over there, my special guest over there, Siddharth Das. Oh, Vinu Karthik. Here we go. Someone has a timer for the day. Welcome you all for this special gala, dazzling, sparkling event with a keynote speaker. Who is she? I'm not going to tell you because she's very, very special. So fasten your seat belt and let's take this flight number 611 of the Speechweavers Toastmasters Club to the next level. So please note to make sure this flight is smoothless, seamless. Ensure you put your windows, your Zoom windows open so you have a better look of the dazzling, beautiful personality which we have today. And then make sure be muted as far as your audio is concerned and unmute it only when it's required. And I'm sure you don't want any air pockets to come. So none of the speakers and role takers will be traversing into areas pertaining to sex, religion, and politics. Because the moment you do that, there will be deep air pockets. The flight will be disturbed. And the commander of the flight today is a gentleman who has experience of civil engineering of more than 4 decades. And out of 3 decades, he was in Saudi Arabia. And not only that, he's a versatile personality. He can speak in Latin, he can speak in other 4 Indian languages. So please join me in welcoming the commander of our ship, Joseph Benedict.
Thank you, Milind sir, for the amazing introduction of yours. Good evening to my dear Toastmasters, distinguished Toastmasters, and honorable guests. A warm welcome to our special meeting today. I hope you are all doing well in spite of unfavorable weather. It is our part to take care of our health. If you don't make time for your wellness, you will be forced to take time for your illness. So you have to be more careful. I declare the meeting number 662 in order. Today we have a special invite, who is our keynote speaker of the event of our club. A warm welcome to you, Sarina Mann, Toastmaster, for our special event of this club. You know, English is the most studied language around 20% of the world. Speakers in English knowing how to speak English can open a new life. Possibilities from traveling more easily to other countries, meeting the people, conveying them your messages. And it also means that you can take admission in the world's most prestigious institutions where English language is preferable. If you are looking for how to improve your English speaking skills, there are plenty of methods and techniques. Mastering any skill, including communication skills, comes down to practice. By practicing and speaking, you can learn from mistakes and build both your vocabulary and understanding. The Toastmaster platform comes to your rescue. Public speaking and communication skills is always pioneered in the Toastmaster Club. Therefore, join Toastmaster Club in order to improve your public speaking and communication skills. Today we have a special keynote speaker who will educate you on the subject called Own Your Accents. Today our event chair conduct the entire meeting with the keynote speakers. Our Vice President, who is now the event chair, is a profession, Director of Deep Pockets Technology Private Limited. His hobbies is interested in reading and writing and football and exploring new ideas for a venture. I hand over the stage to Toastmaster August. Over to you.
Thank you very much for that, Presiding Officer, Toastmaster Joseph. I have the privilege of being the event chair for today's meeting, which is the 662nd meeting of the Speechweavers Toastmasters Club, by the way. And we have a very special guest in store for all of us. And we have a very special event that's going to unfold. We also have table topics, and we have table topics evaluation, and we have so much as part of this meeting. But before that, I'm going to go ahead and get into the crux of the matter, which is nothing but the keynote speech. But before that, I'd like to welcome the timer for today's meeting. The timer for today's meeting is Toastmaster Binu. Toastmaster Binu makes his return to Speechweavers after quite some time. Binu, would you mind introducing your role as the timer for today's meeting?
Thank you, Toastmaster Adarsh. Good evening, Toastmasters. Today I'm as a timer. I will be playing. As a timer. My role is to keep track of all the role takers. Keep the time. Keep the track of the time of all the role takers, and time limit. I will be utilizing 3 flashcards, which will be flashed in my background. So time limit for keynote speaker is 20 minutes. So at the minimum qualification time, I will be flashing a green light in my green card in my virtual background, and at the intermediate time, that is 19th minute, I will be flashing the yellow card in my virtual background. So once the keynote speaker reaches the maximum time limit, I will be flashing the red card in my virtual background. So grace period will be 30 seconds of grace period will be given for the keynote speaker. So for table topics, as you know, it will be 2 minutes for each table topic. I will be utilizing green, yellow, and red flashcards, which will be populated in my virtual background. So for each table topic speaker, 30 seconds grace period will be given. So whoever cross the limits, that person will be disqualified from that. So at the end of the meeting, I will be presenting my report. So thank you, Event Chair Adarsh.
Thank you for that report, Toastmaster Binu. Toastmaster Binu, we're not able to see the background. We're not able to see the background colors. I'm not sure if you tried switching it, because Then we usually introduce ourselves as the timer. We usually switch the backgrounds and show various cards. Did you try displaying the cards?
Yeah, no others. I have not displayed, so I will be displaying it.
All right, that's perfect. It's all right. I think everybody is aware of the green, yellow, and red cards as part of Toastmasters. I'm going to quickly go ahead and introduce you to the special guest for today's meeting. She is the keynote speaker, and she's going to be talking about a very interesting topic called owning your accent, which I think all of us have an issue with, especially if you're a non-native English speaker. I'm sure you'll have a hard time, and I'm pretty confident that you also get very judgy because you want to sound like someone that is from England or some place where people sound exceptionally good. But then it's also important for you to not underestimate yourself. And that's exactly why we have our speaker today. She is an avid Toastmaster, a presentation coach. She has helped numerous business owners, students, young adults to present themselves on camera. So she gives them the confidence to present themselves on camera. And she's also an expert at helping non-native English speakers, which all of us are in this room, or at least for the most part. Her job is to help people develop presentation skills with confidence. And that's exactly what she is here for. And she also finished second runners-up at the district level table topics competition in District 71. She was voted the best Toastmaster at Northampton Speakers Toastmasters Club. We have Toastmaster Sarina Mann, who will be presenting Owning Your Accent. Toastmaster Sarina Mann. Thank you very much for joining us at Speechweavers.
Thank you for that lovely introduction. So do you worry about your accent? If you were to speak to an international audience, or maybe to a group of people you know are native speakers, would you feel self-conscious about your accent? So my name, as you know, is Sarina Mann. And today I'm going to help you to feel more confident about your accent and the way that you speak. The first thing I'm going to cover is fear. That fear that we can all have about our accent. Even native speakers have fears about their accent, but they can be different types of concerns. The second thing I'm going to talk about is what is an accent? So we're going to take a really deep look at what is an accent and what's the difference between your accent and pronunciation. Then the last thing I'm going to talk about is how you can feel much more confident about your accent. Okay, does that sound good? So I'm going to be asked, the first thing I'd love to do is just ask you some questions that you can just type in the chat box. Okay, so I'd like to know, for those of you who have felt self-conscious, let me know, have you felt worried or self-conscious about your accent? Yeah, so the question is, do you worry about your accent? You can just type your answer in the chat box. Yep, okay, I've got a thumbs up there as well. And I do sometimes. Yes, okay, thank you. Okay, so we've got a few yeses, yeses there. And would you say then the worry about your accent undermines your confidence to speak in front of an audience? Is it something that affects your confidence? Again, just type in the chat box if you think it does. Okay. Thank you very much for your participation there. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. So it seems like there's a common trend here, okay, that there's some worry or concern about accent. So we're going to explore this much more. The first thing I'd like to ask you actually is, do you know what you're afraid of? Because when we overcome a fear of any kind, the first step is being clear on what you're actually afraid of. And they can be very different types of fears with regard to your accent. Okay, so I'd like for you to just let me know, what is it that you're afraid of? You can unmute and participate if you wish, or you can write it down, totally up to you.
My pronunciation for R and L So that is something I have a challenge. So I'm very cautious because when I say I'm a runner, marathon runner, so that it sometimes becomes learner. So runner and runner. So that is some challenge. So R and L is something I has to be extra cautious because the message will be totally different.
True, and thank you so much for sharing that. It's an important point. I'm so glad that you know the specifics, though, exactly which sounds you have difficulty with, because that's very important indeed. Does anyone else want to share what they actually feel concerned about, the specifics, exactly what it is they're worried about? No, nothing else? Okay. So we know at this stage that there is a worry. Okay, and sometimes this worry can be about the fact that, as someone shared here, you know you're pronouncing some of the words in a different way, and you might not be understood. Okay, so that's one concern, not being sure that people are really understanding what you're saying. And of course, that would make you feel worried because everyone needs to be understood clearly. The other thing then can be being judged. You know, that you worry that, oh no, people are going to judge me because I have a different accent. Or maybe even worst case scenario, you would worry that people might make some unkind comment. Okay, so we need to be very aware of what it is we're afraid of before we can move on. Now, with being fearful of accent, generally what I would say is we often think it's much worse than it is. Okay, so as we know the expression, you're your own worst enemy. So often we think our accent is much worse than it actually is. So I'm going to briefly share with you my own story about accent, because you might have noticed I'm a native English speaker. So why would I be worried about my accent? Okay, so I have a bit of a history behind my own accent that I'll share with you, because it's the same kind of feeling of that being very self-conscious about your accent. And this is the journey that I went through that I'd like to share with you. So when I was growing up, I was brought up in Canada, okay, in North America. And my dad was from England and my mum from Indonesia. And my father insisted that when I was going to school in Canada, that I speak with a British English accent. Okay, he really wanted me not to have the North American accent, but to speak with a British English accent. It was very, very important to him. So we drilled with words, you know, can't instead of can't, ask instead of ask. We went through all these words. Okay, but when I went to school, everyone was looking at me. You're speaking funny. What's wrong? What's wrong with your accent? Okay, and from the result of this, because a child develops their accent, by the age of 12, we all generally develop an accent. It's harder to change when we get older. So right from the beginning, I started speaking with a mixed British and Canadian accent. So throughout my schooling, my university years, of course, people would say to me, what accent is that? And of course, it would make me feel very self-conscious. Okay, so I'd feel very embarrassed about speaking up. I wasn't a confident speaker. And the fact that people kept picking up, you know, what's the accent? I can't, oh, what is it? Where could it be from? Is it Scottish, American? Is that Canadian? And we went through this whole saga, it seems, every single time. So I became very self-conscious. But there came to a point later in life where someone suggested to me, why don't you just choose one accent and have elocution classes? So I did. I went to some elocution classes to remove the Canadian accent so I would speak in a beautiful British English accent alone. And after 5 sessions, something just changed in me. And I decided, why am I doing this? This is my accent. This is how I speak. I'm going to own this and feel confident about it. The moment that I decided to be confident about it, there were no longer any problems, okay? Because I owned my accent. So if people ask, what accent is that? It's a mixed Canadian-British accent. And that's okay. So I know it's not exactly the same for non-native speakers. But what I'm sharing with you is that often it's that feeling of being self-conscious that we need to work with. So there's a difference between whether there's a practical problem with your accent or an emotional one. And quite often it's more emotional, okay? Because now we're going to look at what it means to have a practical problem or challenge to do with your accent. So what really is an accent? An accent just indicates where in the world or what region you're from, doesn't it? So we'll all speak with different accents, and then we can say, oh, you're from this place, you're from that place, or else this is where you spent your childhood. It indicates that. It's the melody or rhythm and the way in which you speak. Your pronunciation, on the other hand, is how you actually say syllables. Okay, like an example here, the R to do, or and the L, or maybe it's the V and the W. There will be certain or vowel sounds or word stress. Okay, so this can be very difficult when you're not speaking, when you're speaking in another language, because of course it's all different. So we can think about the different types of areas that we struggle with. And one of the best things to do is to speak in front of a native speaker, okay, and just get some feedback. You know, which words am I not pronouncing correctly? But most importantly, which words reduce the clarity of my speech? Okay, because your accent never needs to change. I've got a British Canadian accent, you'll have an Indian accent, and so on. Accents never need to change. They just indicate where you're from or where you spent your childhood. What sometimes does need to change is your pronunciation. Okay, so it's being clear on that. And again, being part of Toastmasters, we have so many opportunities to get some really quality feedback. You can do a talk in a club anywhere in the world with native speakers, native English speakers, and get that feedback. I'd like you to tell me if there's something that I'm saying that's not clear. Okay, so get that feedback. Here are some practical steps that you can take if you're concerned about your accent. Okay, so what I'm saying is that your accent never needs to change. Sometimes what you do need to change is your pronunciation if it reduces your clarity, as the example shared earlier. So when you say some certain words, then the best way to make those changes is to think about one word or sound at a time. Like you only want to focus on your R's and L's and change one at a time in your speech. Otherwise, it's too much. It's actually very difficult to change the way we speak, especially if we've been speaking that way for a long time. To choose one vowel sound or one consonant sound and then change that in your speech. Then move on to the next one. Okay, but again, it doesn't have to be, you don't have to overthink it, and it's really only if it reduces the clarity. An accent is not important. So areas that sometimes when you're a non-native English speaker, you can come across unclear is, for instance, if you're speaking to an international audience or to native speakers, you need to give them time to adjust to your accent, okay, because you're listening to it every day, of course, you understand. But if they haven't ever heard your accent or haven't heard the accent in a while, they just need some time to adjust. So this is where you fall back on your presentation skills, like speak more slowly. Slow down the pace, because in your native language, maybe you speak really fast. I know once I started to learn Spanish and I just couldn't, they speak so quickly, I could not understand any of it. It didn't seem, it seemed very, very difficult. And some languages are spoken very quickly. So do you speak English that way? Sometimes when you can feel nervous, you can start to speak really quickly anyway. Okay, so this can affect the way that you speak. May I have the time? Sorry, I forgot to start my clock today. Oh, that's okay, I can see the timer, thank you. So always be aware of the specifics of what you're saying. So your pronunciation, you can say things more slowly, and also think about names, for instance. So I was recently coaching someone who is a non-native speaker, and they're about to deliver a speech in front of an international audience, and they start their speech by saying, I was talking to my friend so-and-so the other day. They say her name. Now, the name is a Greek name, and she says it very quickly. Okay, so now that means that in the first few seconds of her speech, I have to go, what did she just say? But she's a very clear speaker. It's not to do with pronunciation or accent. She's a clear speaker, but she just happened to throw in a Greek name at the start. So if you're using a name that someone might be confused about, think about slowing that down completely and just saying it in a way that everyone can understand. Because the main thing about accent is you never want to be in a position where anyone has to go, what did they just say? That's when your problems can arise. Okay, and that's when you're looking at a practical problem. That's about increasing your, improving your pronunciation. Okay, can we all see the difference with that, the accent and pronunciation? Yeah. So I can't stress enough the importance of getting some good quality feedback, because then you'll know what steps you need to take. Do you need to slow down? It's likely you do. Okay, even native speakers need to slow down, but especially if you have an accent. Even if you're a native speaker with an accent, for instance, like it's maybe Scottish or Irish, it's an accent that sometimes is difficult to understand. So they also need to slow down so that people can get used to their accent and understand. Okay, so those are some practical tips. Then the last one is actually how to be more confident. The trick is to finding out whether you have an emotional problem or a practical problem. Okay, the emotional is just you thinking, oh no, people will judge me. This is terrible, how embarrassing. That's the emotional problem. Okay, the practical problem is, do you lack clarity? If so, work on your pronunciation. The accent is fine. It's always going to be there. Or not. I mean, sometimes you'd have to do a lot of work to get rid of an accent, but it is possible. But my personal view is an accent never needs to change, but sometimes your pronunciation does. So think about what kind of a problem do you actually have? And if you're thinking to yourself, people are going to judge me, let's just take a look at that one. Okay, so let's say, because it would be wonderful if all the speakers here could deliver speeches in front of international audiences, right? And why not? Yeah, this can be something that can really hold you back. You think, no, it's not my first language. I might make some grammatical errors, but that's fine. I mean, the fact that you're even speaking in a language that's not your first is truly amazing. And a lot of people where English is a first language in the United States and the UK, we don't speak another language. So we just admire you. And we think, wow, you're amazing. Maybe it's not even your second language. It's likely several different Indian languages, maybe other languages too. So maybe it's your fourth language. I mean, that's amazing. Okay, so I personally believe there isn't going to be that judgment of people thinking, oh, no, they used the wrong tense there. That wasn't the right tense. I think that was meant to be past perfect, not present. No. That really isn't going to be happening. One reason is that, especially when you learn English as a native speaker, you don't go into the grammar that much. People can hear, of course, whether something's right or not, but generally that's not the main thing. People are listening to your message. And if you share that message with passion and you use all the presentation skills that you've learned as a Toastmaster, then those little bits don't matter. They really don't. Okay, but there is one point about pronunciation, and that does matter. But then that would be the same for a native speaker. Whatever reduces the clarity of your speech, then think about improving and changing. Does that make sense so far? Yeah, some nods, thumbs up, good, thank you. The other thing to think about is that we do live in a global, international world where diversity is embraced and welcomed. That people do want to hear speakers from other cultures with different accents. 50 years ago, for instance, it was different, wasn't it? in different parts of the world, things were less accepted. There was less acceptance of other people and accents. Even here in the UK, regional accents were not allowed. If you were reporting the news, for instance, everyone had to speak in a BBC accent. Okay, whereas now they're like, what? Why would I have to speak in that one accent? Of course, the regional accents, Irish, Scottish, Welsh accents, Liverpudlian accents, they can all be there, of course. Why not? So attitudes to accents really are changing, and I think that's important to keep in mind. And this will help to reduce your own fear of being judged. And if that does ever happen, then I think you can be confident that the problem does not lie with you. It would be really inappropriate for someone to say, some comment about your accent or make some unkind remark. It would be really inappropriate. And we can see in Toastmasters, for instance, you would just never hear anyone, comment or say a negative, say anything negative about someone's accent. They might say, there were some bits where you lacked clarity and you need to improve on your clarity, which is a practical problem, and that's true, but never about accent. I know when I first joined Toastmasters, I thought, oh no, it's the whole accent thing again. Everyone's going to be asking me as soon as I deliver my first speech, they're all going to say, oh my gosh, where's the accent from? And I didn't have a single person, because it's not important. It really isn't. So my challenge to you is to do something practical to solve this confidence problem. Because whenever we have a confidence problem, there are always two things we need to do. We need to solve it from an emotional side and a practical side. The emotional side is remembering that, actually, let's start with the practical side. It always has to start with the practical. Okay. Once you address your pronunciation, you've got some feedback from a native speaker. They do not have to be an English teacher or a tutor. Just any native speaker will do. Just check about your pronunciation, about your clarity. Is there anything that I'm saying or the way that I speak, is it unclear? And then take on board what they say. And if there are points about clarity, then take that on board. If there are points about pronunciation, take that on board. There are some bits about pronunciation, like word stress, like the word, I don't know, develop, for instance. Sometimes the word stress you could say in the wrong place, but that doesn't interfere with clarity. You can still understand what that word means. Okay, but other words can reduce the clarity. So that's what you're looking for. Get some feedback. Ask for someone to tell you which areas lack clarity. Or if you just have a very strong accent, be sure to slow down when you speak. Then after that, once you feel confident that you have clarity, then own your accent. This is how I speak, and this is what I'm going to share with the world. This is my accent. Everyone, have a listen. So thank you very much. Now it's over to you. I've really enjoyed being here at this club in India. Thank you so much for inviting me. If you have any questions, then please do ask, and own your accent. Let's all be confident.
Thank you. Over to you, Event Chair, Toastmaster Adosh.
Thank you very much for that, Toastmaster Nitin. I would like all of you to give a round of applause to our keynote speaker for today, Toastmaster Sarina, Mann, and the Q&A moderator, Toastmaster Nitin. It was quite a speech and it was quite a Q&A session. Now, we're going to quickly move ahead for the next round of today's meeting, which is the table topic session. Today's table topic session will be followed by table topics evaluation. But before that, I'd like to invite the table topics master for today. The table topics master for today is quite an acclaimed speaker at our club. He is a distinguished Toastmaster. He's a non-executive director of 2 MNCs, a qualified company secretary and law graduate with over 30 years of experience in the corporate world. He's a professional speaker, a club coach for 3 corporate Toastmaster clubs, which is impressive. He is going to be our table topics master for today. Without any further ado, I'd like to welcome DTM Milind Kolhatkar to start with his table topic session. Over to you, sir.
Imagine you are going in an elevator, and imagine you see the CEO of the company walk into the elevator, and imagine the elevator gets stuck. You are there alone, and the CEO is alone, and it takes almost, and you are getting an announcement, okay, it will take some time for arrangement to be made sure the lift works. So both of you are there. So what would you do? Here is the opportunity for you to speak to CEO who comes from from the headquarters somewhere in Silicon Valley, and you is to adore him. How will you start communication? So such things are possible. You may say, in fact, the CEO says, good morning, what's your name? You may reply, my name is Milind. CEO says, how is the weather? What do you do? The CEO keeps on asking you a question, and you're just answering in one sentence. Yes, weather is good in Bangalore. What do you do? I work in the legal department. Will that communication enjoy when the lift starts working and then we go out? Can't you do something more than that? Where you can communicate with him, ask questions to him, which you wanted desperately. Maybe you might have put it in the Facebook or something, for which you never got an answer. But you may have missed that opportunity because you did not have the courage or the gift of gap, they say. Because you may have seen your colleagues, the way they pick up some things and they just outshine you. Though knowledge-wise, your colleague may be nowhere near you. So that is a beauty. We say, oh, he has a born speaker. He has a born gift of gap. No, my friends, that is not there. Toastmaster is there. And this is exactly the table topic. It's something which helps you in such moments when you're in an elevator speech, when you have, from nowhere you get time, when you have an opportunity to open your mouth, or you are invited to say a few words, and you are not even prepared for that. And you fumble and mumble and say something which you yourself is embarrassed, forget the others. So Toastmaster is a platform where we can do that. And that's exactly what we are going to do now. So let us see our elevator moment. Now, I have a question. And then anyone who wants to volunteer, he or she can unmute herself and can stake it. I'm also putting that question or topic in the chat window. Okay,
Apologies for interrupting Nidhi and Milind. I would like to request all of you to turn on your videos because you won't get a chance until you turn on your videos. Come on, quick. 3, 2, 1. Back to you, Nidhi.
My chat seems to be, is there a muted chat or something? Anyway, I'll just repeat the question. Do you have to change your accent to communicate effectively in an international audience? Do you have to change your accent to communicate effectively to an international audience? Anyone can unmute themselves and can or raise their hand and just go ahead. Any volunteer? Or may I ask the guest, Subhangani Nigam, would you like to go? Yeah, go ahead. I hope I pronounced your word.
Yeah, it's right. It's Shubhranjali itself. Can you please repeat the question?
Do you have to change your accent to communicate effectively to an international audience?
Accent is something that you are born with it. From the time you start speaking, like if when a kid is born, obviously that time he can't speak, he will just cry. And that will be also his or her own accent, like he perceives the world around him or her. That is something to be proud of, whether you are presenting in front of the international audience. You should not feel embarrassed in speaking in your own accent. Though I do agree, a universally accepted language across the world is English. And even in English, the accent differs when it comes to India or when it comes to speaking in America or in different countries. But even speaking in English in an Indian accent is something that we should all be proud of. And I believe that an Indian accent, how we conversate in English, is not that difficult that it can't be comprehended by any outside audience. Thus, we should include our own accent while conversing with anyone who belongs to a foreign country. And it will also make them appreciate that this person who is coming from outside my country is proud of his or her accent. And at the same time, we should not discourage the other person who is of some foreign accent and make fun of that person, that why you are speaking in that form. because they are actually born with that accent and they should be also proud of the same. That's all from my end. Over to you, table topic master.
Thank you, table topic speaker. Thanks for volunteering yourself and sharing your views. And good, you spoke your heart out. And you seems to be echoing this keynote speakers thing. You don't have to change your accent. And to add that what keynote speaker said, just to make sure you are able to, people, the audience are able to understand you. You may have to go a bit slow. Make sure you can ask them questions. Am I clear? Ask some questions by which you can get a feedback whether they are actually in the same wavelength, and then you can take it. So going slow is something I learned today from the keynote speakers. That's a great thing. Now, second topic is accent and communication and pronunciation. Is accent and pronunciation same, or they are different? And give some examples. So may I have some volunteers? So may I ask guest Tabby from iPhone to go ahead? Tabby's iPhone. Can you unmute yourself? Or may I go to guest Shipla, if you're okay with that? Or guest seems to be still thinking whether to open their mouth or not. Or guest Vidya. Okay, now let me start with some other guest who seems to be guest because he has not been there for ages. So for me, he's a guest. So he's a timer for the day. So timer, Mr. I have a question to you. The question is accent and pronunciation same, different? Explain with examples.
Accent and pronunciation is different according to me, because if you see my fingers, all these 5 fingers are not same. Even each finger is having its own identity. The same way, while pronouncing, you should know what you will be speaking to the audience, and whereas in the accent, it not depends upon what you will be speaking and what you will be delivering to the audience. And in pronunciation, even in accent, if you make mistake, it will not make a major impact, because every individual will be from different area and he will be having different accent. But in the pronunciation, if you suppose pronounce a word in a different thing, it will reach to the audience in a different way. You mean in a different way, but the audience who will be receiving that, whatever you will be going to deliver, that will reach in a different way. So always pronunciation will be different from accent. So over to you, Toastmaster DTM Millen, sir.
Timer, and that's right. So your pronunciation and accent are totally different. So that was great. So now let me go to a different question. Does accent matter or the content of your speech matter? Which is important? Does accent matter or content matter? So let me ask from the vote takers only. So let me ask today our table topic evaluator. Let him pick up.
Vidhu will be playing the role of a table topics evaluator, so he cannot evaluate himself, I believe.
No, doesn't matter. So for him, we'll do the thing.
All right, then I think that sounds good.
Limited guests,
Vidhu,
so let us give. Okay. So my question to you is, does accent matter or the content matter?
does accent matter or the content matter? I would feel both matter, because even if you have, the first priority should always be the content, because depending upon the people that you are speaking to or delivering the content, you should take the onus on yourself that they should derive some value from the content that you are telling, because you are utilizing that time. But on the same time, accent is very much important, because in communication, if you're not able to send the message clearly, and if the other person is not able to comprehend your message, then the chain of communication breaks. So I feel you should take the ownership of communication first, develop the content, and then start practicing your accent if there is a difference between the accent that you have and the speaker's homegrown accent, and try to make that accent as easily comprehensible as possible. Or as our keynote speaker Sarina said, pick out the keywords which would be helping the other person understand what you're trying to say. So to conclude again, both accent and content are very much important when you're delivering any topic to any speaker, any listener.
Thank you, table topic evaluator Vidhu Das, for explaining the importance of both the things. Because ultimately, communication is something how the audience is able to receive it. So as long as what you want to say and the audience receives in this, that's up to the content. Now, one thing which somehow in our table topic, in our Toastmaster only, we have one member who is very precise in pronunciation. So she corrected me. It is not content, it is content. Because content is different, content is different. So what is there? So when we say, we want to say, so we have to be very careful in pronunciation also. So that's what is there. Thank you for this importance. Of course, you highlighted both the importance of the things. Now, the next question, which is there, maybe the last question. Success is a sum of small efforts repeated daily. Success is a sum of small efforts repeated daily. Any volunteers?
I'll be interested in case.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, event manager, you others, go ahead.
I'd like you to repeat the question once again, because I'd like to understand it appropriately. Yes.
Success is the sum total of small efforts repeated daily. Success is a sum total of small efforts repeated daily.
That's totally right, if I'm not wrong. Success is a sum total of all the small efforts that you put in your everyday life. There are a lot of people out there that tell you don't enjoy those tiniest form of celebrations in case if you happen to do something very small. Take the example of your exams. I'm sure all of us have our exams. I'm sure some of us are not in school, but are instead working. But look back at that time when you were in college, or maybe back when you were in school. I'm sure there were those times where they conducted exams and you happened to score some decent marks. I celebrated it. I'm not sure how many of you did. Did you, Vidhu? Did you celebrate your marks in your exam? Yeah, I can see the nod on your face. I'm pretty confident that you did. And I think all of us must celebrate those tiny occasions, because of course, they don't mean a lot of things. Of course, getting good marks in the exam doesn't mean you're the president of the country or the prime minister of the country. It means that you've achieved something. And while a lot of people out there overlook them, I would like to tell you that it's not something that we must overlook. In my case, I was not a very good student back in school. I was actually very average, bang average, to say the least. I used to try really hard to crack my exams, but I had a hard time. But there were those occasions when I actually cracked the board. There were occasions where I actually went out there and did a good job in my exams, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it to the fullest, although most people didn't see it as an accomplishment. And I think all of us must go out there and collect those tiny droplets of success that we experience in our everyday lives and use them as a form of inspiration to achieve more going into the future. On that note, I'd like to hand it back to you, David Roberts-Master.
Thank you, Toastmaster Adarsh. So you seem to have given us summation of entire keynote table topic speaker. It's an excellent session we had today. So with this, I hand it back to the event chair. Over to you.
Thank you for that, DTM Millen. There was quite a session, if I'm not wrong. All of us got to answer table topics. Some of us were hesitant, but again, that's what today's speech is all about. I think that's the reason why we had a keynote speaker from abroad. I think she was probably intrigued and happy that you people stepped up. But for those that didn't step up, you're always free to step up at some time. We have our meeting next week, and we'll have many more meetings going forward. We've already had 662 of them. So who knows, we'll reach our 1,000 meeting very soon. Regardless, thank you very much for that, DTM Millen. It's been absolutely brilliant. But for now, I'd like to welcome our Toastmaster Bidu to take a photo of all of us. I'd like all of you to turn on your videos real quick. We'll take a quick photo.
So I'll give 3 more seconds to people who are trying to turn on their videos. I see Deepa is here. So Deepa, if you could turn on your video, it would be great to capture you. All right, 3, 2, 1, smile, keep your best faces. Done. Thank you so much.
I guess we're done. Thank you very much for that, Toastmaster Bidu. Toastmaster Bidu is also our table topics evaluator. Bidu, are you ready for your table topics evaluation, or do you need a bit more time?
Yes, I can go ahead.
All right, then. I'd like to welcome you. I would like to present the table topics evaluator for today, who is part of an interesting, he has a very interesting background. He's actually joining us from Delhi, which is actually all the way in the north of India, which is nowhere near Bangalore. He's someone that was a part of Speechweavers before, but when the pandemic came about, he couldn't resist to rejoin Speechweavers again. Thank you very much for joining us. He is Toastmaster Bidu. Toastmaster Bidu, the table topics evaluator. You're free to proceed with your report.
Thank you, Toastmasters and event chair Adarsh. So I would start with the first speaker, guest Subranjali Nigam. You had got an interesting topic, much in line with what our keynote speaker was trying to give a message to. Would you change your accent to speak in a foreign topic? And what I liked is that you started taking a stance and you explained why you are taking the stance. You went back to our childhood days, why we develop an accent, and why we should not be embarrassed, or rather be very proud and own our accent. So I like the fact that you took a stance and you took an effort to explain why you are taking the stance. Delivery wise, you had the clarity because the speech started with the core reason of why we developed the accent. Only one improvement area. While concluding, rather than rounding off the core idea, you gave one more angle to it, which is great. But it could have been effective if you are going for a longer speech. Like you spoke about, if we are on the other side and if you are listening to someone who is having a different asset. So that opened a different angle to your speech while you are concluding. So I would prefer a summarization of your speech towards the end. Moving on to speaker 2, Toastmasters Venu. He had received the topic, is accent and pronunciation same or different? Preferably, I would expect the table topic master not to give such topics because there is a correct answer to it. And that puts the speaker in a spot because he can, if he doesn't know the answer to such a question, he is bound to not speak anything. But I like the way Toastmasters Venu took it, and he started explaining it with the example of fingers, and that was very engaging. And he kept on elaborating the two sides, like what is accent and what is pronunciation, by giving us the impact that if we go wrong, how it will impact. Finally, again, improvement areas. I thought his speech was a little short. I'm sure he had a bit more time to explain, and he could have carried on for 30 more seconds. That's the only thing that I could tell him. Moving on to speaker 3, which is myself. I didn't hear myself properly, but I felt I did repeat one point twice, so that I could have avoided that one. And our speaker 4 for today, Toastmasters Adarsh. I think the first thing that was observant was the delivery. He was very fluent. The vocal variety was there. It shows how confident he is in his impromptu speaking skills. He engaged the audience, especially me, by pulling my name into his speech. And one more point that I liked is that while weaving an anecdote, he used the story of himself. So what happens is when you're sharing a story which is actually related to your life, the audience is engaged much more, I feel, rather than something you are sharing on a third-party basis. So great work, Toastmasters Adarsh. And for table topic, Master DTM Millen sir, I think it was a great beginning. You told us exactly why impromptu speech is important by giving us an example of a scenario which most of us find intimidating, sharing a lift with the CEO. So it was very engaging and very catching phrase for an audience. With this, I give it back to you, Event Chair Toastmasters Others.
Thank you for that, Toastmaster Bidu. By the way, we have never had table topics evaluation at our club before. So when Bidu asked me the question as to how we can proceed with table topics evaluation, I told him to take a step back and think about how we evaluate speeches in general. And he took that upon himself and he did a wonderful job in evaluating all of our table topics. Thank you very much for that. Yes, I'd like all of you to give a round of applause to Toastmaster Bidu. It's been quite a journey today, hasn't it been? I think we had Toastmaster Sarina, Mann, who started and spoke about owning your accent, which I believe is a challenge for most people out there, not just within India, but from across the world. So it's nice to see all of you step up and post questions. And I'm pretty confident that half of you feel quite as confident as what you did when you started the session. So I'd like all of you to go back and do your homework and probably consult her at some point, I'm not sure, or maybe consult me or anybody within the club so that you can get better with your accent. Of course, you should be proud of your accent, as Toastmaster Shubhanjali said. I'd like to call upon our timer for today. Our timer for today is Toastmaster Vinu to present this report so that we know how well all of us did in terms of our timing. Toastmaster Vinu, the stage is yours.
Here is my timer report. So our meeting started at 5:05. Our meeting started at 5:05, and our keynote speaker took 20 minutes, 8 seconds to complete our speech. And coming to our table topics, our first table topic speaker, Subranjali Nigam, she took 1 minute, 49 seconds. And table topic second speaker, that is myself, I took 1 minute, 12 seconds. And table topic third speaker, Toastmaster Bidu, he took 1 minute, 4 seconds. And table topic fourth speaker, Toastmaster Adar, she took 1 minute, 39 seconds to complete his table topic speech. And coming to Q&A session, it took 10 minutes, 38 seconds. And for the table topics evaluation, Toastmaster Bidu took 3 minutes, 1 second. And everyone has stick to the time. So over to you, Event Chair, Toastmaster Adarsh.
Thank you for that, Toastmaster Vinu. I'm sure timing speeches, especially keynote speeches, can be a challenge because when you're so immersed in what the person's saying, it can be very difficult for you to time the speech. But congratulations on timing. I'd like all of you to give a round of applause for the timer who makes his return to Speechweavers for the first time in months. On that note, I'd like to hand it back to our presiding officer for today, Toastmaster Joseph Felix Benedict.
Thank you, others, for the wonderful session that you have conducted also. And everyone was really enjoying at each and every stage of the session. I like to remind about the British days. The British who came as a East India Company for business has already occupied India over 300 years. And our last Queen, Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth, was the one who gave us the freedom in 1947. The Queen's accent and pronunciation was amazing. The British India found that Indians are perfect in writing and reading English, and that is why they were given all the administration posts during the British rule. The independent India, you might have heard or whatever it is, because the leaders, Mahatma Gandhi, who is Barrett-Law London, Jawaharlal Nehru was the Prime Minister of India, was Oxford University graduate. Same with Dr. Radhakrishnan, was also a overseas educated person. When these people, when they addressed the public, they were so silent and listening. I was told that There was a rain when Dr. Radhakrishnan was speaking, and nobody dispersed. They took the umbrella and still listening to Dr. Radhakrishnan. These three people who always have your best English speaking scholars, who could make the audience understand what is the purpose of their speech and what they want. That was the tremendous example I can give you among our Indian leaders of yesteryears. Now coming to the present days, I would say, although English is accepted in India as one of the major languages, whenever we talk in our own mother tongue, we take the help of British English for any small things to emphasize. We never talk our mother tongue purely. That is one thing. True. You always mix English to make someone understand more. That I would say we should prevent. That's not a correct way. If we talk in English or your own mother. The second part is our accent always interferes with our mother tongue. What you could say is the accent. Mother tongue is in a different accent, while the English language is a different accent, and we mix up the English language in our mother tongue accent. These are the faults that we overlook while we are speaking to someone else. Anyway, these are the things that I wanted to emphasize. The Sarina Mann was speaking today with the accent. And the part that she gave us was the fear about the accent and pronunciation, and confidence about your accent, and subconscious about your accent also. This was a very good, what I can say, the tips that she has given, how you should be able to convey the message to the audience. The bottom line is, whatever may be your accent, whatever may be your pronunciation, he should not be there. That was the reason. There is a method where you cannot increase your speed or decrease your speed, but pronunciation accents are two important things to deliver your message to the audience so that they can understand you, they can appreciate your speech, and they always give value to your speech. That is what she also emphasized on. Thank you so much for Sarina Mann to give us this big takeaway, what she has given us today, and we would like to put in our life the things that you have mentioned to improve our communication system. That was a great thing. Thank you so much for your presence in our club, taking your time, valuable time, and given us the wonderful information on the accent, which is your subject today. Let us applause, give a great applause to our Sarina Mann, the speech of. Now I thank all those who have taken part in this session, especially the moderator, Toastmaster Nitin, and Toastmaster Others, the event chair, and the timer, Nilu Karthik, and all others who are responsible for making this session successful. They played the role with the heart and mind, and I am very thankful for them. I thank all the guests who have attended this session. I hope they have a takeaway, and they learned so much, and it is only possible when you join Toastmasters, not otherwise. We here in Toastmasters, it's a non-profit organization. We are also an NGO. We give everything, not with money or anything. It is only the amount of knowledge, wisdom that Toastmaster gives to each and every individual, whether he is a Toastmaster or a non-Toastmaster. It doesn't make any difference, but they learn throughout their life and they climb this career ladder successfully. That is the main thing that the Toastmaster platform gives us. And our legend, Ralph Spreadley, really gave us the whole world the benefit that youngsters and the elders can take opportunity to fulfill their success in their career. Thank you so much for each and everyone. And I would like Arthur to announce the award for the best table topic speaker.
Yes, the voting link is below, and the vote master for today is Toastmaster Bidu. Toastmaster Bidu has already posted the link in the chat. He'll be announcing the winners as and when we're ready. Bidu, how many responses do we have right now?
We just have 3 responses, so probably we can wait 1 minute more. And I request all the participants and all the guests to please vote for their favorite role takers, especially table topic speakers.
All right, Bidu, let us know once the winners are ready. For now, I'll just hand it back to the presiding officer again.
So we have 4 responses. I should go ahead and announce it. I'm not sure whether other people are voting or not. So based on 4 votes, the winner for the table topic speaker for today is Toastmasters Adarsh, who got 1 more vote more than Toastmasters Vinu. So it was a close contest between Toastmasters Adarsh and Toastmasters Vinu. Congratulations, Toastmasters Adarsh.
Well, congratulations, Adarsh, for the winning of the table topic for you. Now, I would like to announce a few things. The coming month is the month of May. We have 2 more weeks where we will be doing our general meeting, and in that we would like to have what is known as a debate competition. We would like to attach some other club so that they will be competing with our club and win the trophy or something about whatever is there. So the 2 sessions, 2 weeks meetings will be a normal meeting, while the 3rd one will be a linkers meeting, and the 4th one will be again a keynote speaking, but that will be followed by panel discussion. The people will be joining from overseas to on this occasion of last week of May. And we would also announce the awards given by the club for those who are perfected in their responsibility. Thank you so much. Have a nice evening and enjoy with your family. God bless you. I make 6:62 adjourn the meeting.